I'm at my wit's end with my drug addict maternal uncle. I've written about him here once before. My maternal grandfather, age 100 years, 10 months, lived with him in his apartment until March 2022. His living conditions were disgusting. Bed so full of bedbugs, my grandfather was covered in bites and his bedspread literally covered in streaks of blood. Spent all day sitting in a ratty old vinyl or leather chair that gave him thick, scaly white rashes on his arms. They looked like the white parts on humpback or right whales. Lost so much weight, his clothes were falling off him. My uncle doesn't believe in paying bills, so he let them shut off the cable and Wi-Fi. If I hadn't gotten my grandfather an Android with my own money on my unlimited data plan, he would have literally had nothing to do literally all day every day. The apartment was a cesspool full of fleas or gnats, not quite sure what they were, dirty clothes, and boxes of pancake mix and dusty cans my uncle picked up over and over again from the food bank just so they could sit there never being used. I was finally able to move my grandfather out in March 2022. My uncle didn't approve, but there was no way he could stop me. It wasn't like he could let cops or social workers see his living conditions. The rest of my family and I assumed our grandfather wouldn't be around much longer, but it turned out the only reason he wasn't eating and lost weight was because someone kept spending all his money on drugs. All I know is that it's snortable white powder, and telling him they couldn't afford food. Out of that environment, he ate normally, gained weight, and shows no signs of deteriorating. Since he now lives in an environment that doesn't need to be hidden, I enrolled him in the VA home health care program, so gets medical care and vaccines at home and a home health aide coming 3 days a week to do bathing, shaving, and other tasks. We had to leave everything behind because of the bedbugs, so I spent $950 on my own money on clothes and furniture for him, and my brother bought him a TV and set of shelves for it. Everything is good except for one problem. My uncle uses my grandfather like an ATM and treats my grandfather's bank account like it's his own. They're both on Social Security, plus my grandfather gets his war pension and dividends from a small amount of stock. He still has my grandfather's debit card on his Grubhub account and uses it to order from them 1 to 2 times a day. Starting 10 to 15 days into every month, he does that thing where he asks for small amounts, $10, $11, $12, $20, 1 to 2 times every day, Cash App. One month, he took a total of $789. This month, $609. And that's from my grandfather alone. He's done it to everyone in my family. At this point, I think everyone but my father, who's not even related to him, has reached their breaking point and refuses all requests now. My grandfather is not as sharp as someone 50+ years younger than him, but he doesn't have dementia or anything else severely wrong with his mind. He recognizes everyone, maintains conversations with no problem, knows where he is and what's going on around him, takes his meds on his own every morning. I divide them out in a pill tray every week, reads magazines, letters, etc., and comprehends what he's reading. He can't write solely because of limited function in his right hand, browses the web on his Android and answers calls. I wasn't able to teach him how to make calls, though, uses his walker to travel between his bedroom and the bathroom with no problem. He's not mentally incompetent, he just can't say no. But the only reason he has so much money to give is because he's living with me. I'm a live-in caregiver for a friend with a spinal cord injury. My friend is the homeowner, and I'm paid by the state for caring for him, also have a full-time office job, and pay the majority of living expenses for all 3 of us. He let my grandfather move in because he wanted me to stay living with him and caring for him rather than move out. For over a year, I stuck to my plan of not charging my grandfather anything, but my uncle just took it all. A few months ago, I started, with my grandfather's consent, letting him pay the phone bill I'd been paying for both of us for 3.5 years and the water bill since I refused to subsidize my uncle's drug habit by paying all my grandfather's utilities so he has more to give my uncle. Since Cash App is too complex for my grandfather, I'm the one who has to send the money to my uncle. I blocked my uncle on my phone so he only gets money if he calls my grandfather while I'm home and near enough for him to tell me to send the money. barely made a dent in the demands. My grandfather is still getting free housing, internet, electricity, and gas, all so my uncle can take everything from him. My grandfather wouldn't have been to get groceries with his own money the last week of December if he hadn't gotten some gift cards for Christmas. It makes me sick. I could stop it all by just reporting his debit card as lost and getting him a new one and refusing to send any more money in Cash App, but my grandfather doesn't want that. He wants to say yes every time. The only legal option I can think is to take more money from him to cover some of monthly household bills so he has less to choose to send to the man who almost killed him and less of my money is funding said man. If I just refuse my grandfather's instructions to send his money somewhere, he'll get mad, but I can now live with that. That prospect has finally become less unbearable than dealing with my uncle is. But what if my uncle reports me for financial abuse or elder abuse or something? He'll do anything to get money from his dad. He even lied to me when I first moved him out that my grandfather still owes him half the rent every month because his name was on the lease. It wasn't, it never was, confirmed with the building management. I wonder if I can report my uncle for financial abuse when all he's doing is asking and being told yes. Asking someone to do a welfare check on my uncle that could result in him getting evicted or arrested would likely only make things worse for my grandfather since he would no doubt just use that as an excuse to ask for more. I need a way to refuse instructions regarding money from someone with most of his mental faculties intact without giving an outside party grounds for accusing me of something malicious, unless me not wanting to indirectly fund my uncle by funding my grandfather counts as malicious. Edit. Thank you so much for all the responses, everybody. I truly was surprised at how fast they came in. There's too many for me to respond to every one, so I want everybody to know you've been read and appreciated. I've decided to call his VA social worker, explain what's going on, and ask if they can recommend a lawyer or advocate or someone to advise us on things like making me power of attorney or sending my uncle an ultimatum-style letter. Sometimes a warning is enough to scare people off their behavior, especially when they have things to hide. I might wait until after I make some spreadsheets of all the money my uncle has taken from him and all the expenses I've paid for him. That will take a while, but I think would be preferable to have ready from the start. I saved the pictures of his living conditions that I moved him out of. To those worrying about my uncle visiting, we do live in the same metro area, but he lost his car years ago, and he's destroyed his health. In some of his angrier moments, my grandfather has actually described how the medicine my uncle takes causes him to amble around like a zombie, how my grandfather would call his name and he wouldn't respond, how he'd stand in a doorway staring blankly into space. When my uncle fell in October 2021 and had to go to the hospital, my grandfather actually told me it was because he took something that made him pass out while standing up. When I remind Pap of such things now, he claims he doesn't remember any of that or telling me about it, but I truly think he's lying because he doesn't want to talk about it, not forgetting. Sorry, that was a long way of illustrating how my uncle can barely walk. As far as I know, he just walks to the grocery store and the food bank. He looks like a bearded skeleton. I don't know how he's still alive. My grandfather has twice told me he's gonna die before I do, and I agree. Bottom line, he's not getting on a bus or an Uber, and he's not coming here. He's physically incapable of it.